It's been a while since we've gotten the classes together. We're going to have 4 of these throughout the course of the day, 1 for each grade level. But there are 3 issues that are problematic that we need to recalibrate in the building. What do I mean by recalibrate? Meaning, I know that everybody in here knows right from wrong, good from bad, appropriate versus inappropriate. So the goal, right, is for me to be able to give you this information, okay? For me to be able to tell you in advance, this is what is going to happen, this is what we are looking at. Now, the most difficult part of this entire thing, for me, right, because this is not a comfortable conversation. There is no principal, no educator, no teacher, no one who wants to essentially run through some things that are not going well and to say we need to work together to correct it. And I'm going to try and make some lighthearted humor throughout the course of it, but you have to understand at the end of the day, there are 3 issues that seemingly are coming up pretty consistently that we need to work on to fix. It's kind of a heavy conversation, but you have to realize that even though I am the one who is charged with enforcing this stuff, I care tremendously about every single one of you, and the goal is just to make sure you have advance notice so that we can all be on the same page. But before we do that, a quick story that will segue into what we're going to talk about. We learn things based on experiences, things that happen to us. And so I want to give you an example of something and something that I learned this past summer. 2 of my favorite things to do are to train jiu-jitsu and to go surfing. This summer, I was invited to this trip to Costa Rica to be able to spend the entire week training jiu-jitsu and surfing. It was going to be awesome. All expenses paid. It's going to be a lot of fun. I was going to hang out with my friends, right? Spend a week basically on vacation. The problem is that I never made it there because I made a bunch of mistakes that I had to learn from, and hopefully I won't repeat those mistakes again. So I need you to follow along because we're going to talk about how this could relate to what we deal with on a daily basis. So I had to catch my flight at 8 a.m. out of Newark Airport. So the night before, I'm all excited, everything is packed, ready to go. Could barely fall asleep. Wake up the next morning, it's 5 a.m., I'm like all amped up, ready to go, I'm excited. How many people have ever taken a flight out of Newark Airport before? What's it like? You can be honest.
Oh, it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. It's a little chaotic, right? A little crazy, right? So my flight's at 8. I have everything in my truck at 6 a.m. Jump in the car. And I'm like, you know what? I need a cup of coffee or something for when I get to the airport and for my drive up there. So I stop at Dunkin' Donuts. There's like 5 people in front of me. So I'm like, it's really not that long of a line. It'll be fine. So I leave. I got like a 32-ounce iced coffee or something. So I get in my truck and I keep driving. By this point, it's right about 6:45 or so, and I'm on the turnpike going to Newark Airport. So I get to Newark Airport, and there's a parking lot off to the side. It's one of those paid-to-park things. So I park my car, right? Park the car, get on the shuttle. I get to the terminal at Newark Airport. Who has flown? Who can tell me? What's the first thing you have to do when you get to the airport? What do you have to do when you go inside? Yep, you got to go through TSA. And even before that, you've got to go in and check your bag. Very good. High five. Yes, you just redeemed yourself. You've got to check your bags, right? Then you've got to go through TSA. What's it like going through TSA? Long. Takes a long time, right? Sometimes it takes upwards of like an hour and a half. So anyway, I get through security, right? So I'm in the airport, right? I'm through security, I'm good. Now it's about 7:45. What time did I say the flight leaves? 8 o'clock. 7:45. I'm walking down the terminal to get to the door so I can get into the alleyway to get into my plane, and I see one of my buddies that I went to college with, that I played baseball. His name's Brad. So he comes up and we're talking and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm going to Chicago. And I'm like, oh, guess what, man? I'm going to Costa Rica. I'm going to train jiu-jitsu and surf for an entire week. It's going to be awesome, right? So we talk for a little bit. I look up. I'm like, oh, it's 7:55. I'm going to be cutting this close. So I say, I'll talk to you later. And I walk away. And I'm walking down the terminal, and I underestimated the distance of how long it would take me to get from getting through security to getting to the actual plane itself. So I get to the gate, it's gate B12, I get to gate B12, and the door is closed. And the flight attendant that is working the gate says to me, can I help you? And I said, I need to get on that plane. And I look up and it's 8:01. And she says, you're not getting on that plane. I said, what do you mean? 8 o'clock? She says, no, it's 8:01. It's not 8 o'clock. I said, what are you talking about? It's only a minute. She said, yes, you are a minute. You are a minute late. So, who can tell me what are some of the things that happened? Give me one thing that happened in my story. Yes, Devin. I was talking to my friend, which kind of made me late to get to my plane. Yes, sir. I got my 32-ounce Dunkin' Donuts coffee. That delayed me a little bit more. Anybody else? Yes?
You talked to your friend.
I stopped to talk to my friend, correct. So, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. A bunch of little decisions along the way ended up on the big decision, me making the plane, me arriving on time, me being considered on time, created the problem. Right? And so that's how we learn, because we have experiences. And so what I want to talk about today are 3 things that have come to the surface from a wide variety of people and a wide variety of areas. Right? And I give you that story because it partially relates to something that we're going to talk about first, but also so that everybody can understand that we have to go back and reflect and make better decisions. I need to make better decisions. Right? I need to have a better understanding of what I need to do in order to make sure that, in that example, that I make the plane. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you, and this might be kind of a letdown, but that's okay. The story I just told you was just a story. It was made up. I just made that up to kind of articulate to you. One day, guys, yes, my goal would be to go to Costa Rica to train jiu-jitsu and to surf. But I'm using that story as a teaching mechanism to have a conversation about the first topic that we're going to discuss out of the 3. Anybody want to take a guess? Yes, sir. Time management? No, sort of. Anybody want to take another guess? Yes, sir.
Being late to class?
Being late to class. Perfect. So, item number 1. All right? Over time, okay, we have noticed people taking longer and longer to get into the classroom, to get into the school building. All right? Being on time is incredibly important. School starts at 7:20 a.m. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that we need you on campus at 7:20 a.m. It means that we need you in your first period seat at 7:20 a.m. I realize that we have an early start time. but that is the start time of the school. So it is incredibly important that we maximize the amount of time that you have learning. You must be inside your classroom. When the bell rings, the expectation is that you are inside of your classroom, not wandering the halls, not hanging out. You've got to be inside the classroom. You must be inside the cafeteria. Lunch is a great time. It's very unstructured. It gives you a chance to socialize. And I understand you may need to stop at your locker. You may need to stop at a teacher's room, something like that, to pick up supplies. But when it's 20 minutes into the lunch period, and I say to a student, hey, do you have a pass? And they're like, no, I'm going to lunch. And I'm like, well, how come you're not at lunch yet? And they're like, I was just walking around. That we can't allow. So do you have to sprint to get to the cafeteria when the bell rings for lunch? No. There are things that I know you are taking care of, and that's one of the beauties of the unstructured time. What cannot happen, though, is for people to just be walking through the halls during their entire lunch period. All right? So we need to work on that. So one of the things that we have started instituting, and you've heard this over the loudspeaker for the last week or so, is running these random hall sweeps. Now, I want to be fair when we talk about this. The bell rings, and we're not calling a hall sweep like 10 seconds after the bell. And we're not calling a hall sweep 30 seconds after the bell. In many cases, we're calling the hall sweep 3 and potentially 4 minutes after the bell. So that should be plenty of time for you to get into the classroom, into the cafeteria, wherever you are supposed to be. Right? We want you to be on time because being on time is important. We also need to make sure that we don't have people just walking throughout the halls. So the way it'll work is we're going to do these randomly for the rest of the year. We'll call shelter-in-place hall sweep. We're going to corral people. There's no one who can convince me that if the call is made 3 or 4 minutes after the bell, that you didn't have enough time to get into the classroom. Another topic that came up this morning that the senior class said to me that you can be assured that we are addressing, a student of the senior class said to me, Mr. Eiler, I understand, that's fine, whatever, but there are times where my teacher says to me, don't take a pass, just go. We've had that conversation with the teachers. They are on board with us. They are appreciative and accepting of what this is what the expectation is. And so they will not be letting you leave without a pass. It was something that we have spoken with the teachers about. And again, when I say recalibrating, what I started this off with, I'm not just talking about recalibrating the building so that all kids are on the same page. I'm talking about all of us, kids, adults, all of us. Because we want to make sure that we are all moving in the same direction, right? So that's issue number 1. Issue number 2, inappropriate use of the bathrooms. This is something that we have been working to curtail. We have been going into the bathrooms to see if there are kids just hanging out, addressing those types of issues. This is a serious health and safety issue that we should all be concerned about. Now, even if you are 18 years old, even if there is a way that somebody legally can have this type of thing, it cannot be in the school, right? It is important that we understand the impact that this has on all of our health and safety. There are any number of kids who I've had conversations with who are very upset because they'll say to me, Mr. Eiler, I try and I go to use the restroom during passing, and when I go in there, there's kids that are vaping and it makes me really uncomfortable. There's also kids who will say to me, Mr. Eiler, tried to go into the bathroom, and when I walked in, there were 15 kids just hanging out there. That can't happen. And so we need to make sure that all students feel comfortable and safe when using the facilities. So If you are caught vaping in the bathroom, this is the first instance, it would be 2 days of in-school suspension. That's what we've been doing all year. I just want to make sure that I am reaffirming to you that you have heard this is what's happening, right? If you are loitering in the bathroom, meaning you're just hanging out in there, and there's no reason to be in there, you're just kind of standing there, that can be dealt with disciplinary-wise also.
What if you're waiting for a stall?
If you're waiting for a stall, that would be different, right? Yes, sir. Understood. And these are all going to be very flexible comments, and thank you for those types of questions. The goal is not, right, if you're just finished using the bathroom, if you're, just waiting for a stall. I'm talking about when I walk in and there are magically 15 people in a bathroom, and then as soon as they see, oh, Mr. Eiler came in, all 15 people walk in. That's what I'm referring to. That's what I mean by loitering. Because obviously you have to use the bathroom, you have to be in the bathroom in order to use it, right? That's the goal, is to make it a comfortable environment so everyone has access to those facilities, okay? So that's issue number 2. Issue number 3 is one that is extremely serious, one that you have heard about for years now throughout the course of your educational career, one that just last period I was having a conversation with a staff member, and she said, Mr. Riley, you do realize that no matter what you do, you are not going to stop this from happening. My response, which I will get more into, is that I understand that I, as an individual, will have a really hard time stopping this from happening. We all, as a group, as a school, need to make a concerted effort to work together to stop this from happening. Issue number 3, protocol and reporting of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Now, there is no place for this at MRHS. None. Right? We need to treat each other respectfully, okay? And we need to be appreciative of each other. I'm not saying that everyone has to hang out with everybody. I don't think that that's realistic, but I do think we can be respectful of how each other goes about their day and lives their lives. And that's really, really important. If you feel as though you are either being harassed, intimidated, or bullied, you need to make your way to any staff member. Doesn't have to be a counselor, it could be a teacher, it could be an administrative assistant in the main office, it could be an administrator. Guys, thank you. The goal is to make everyone comfortable being here. You can also fill out a report online from our website. Punishments for this type of behavior will be severe. You can go right onto our code of conduct, which is in the student handbook, which is posted online. You can see what the infraction is or what the disciplinary resolution is for every infraction. I'm asking you to really look at yourselves as people. And the rule of make sure that you treat others the way that you want to be treated is incredibly important when it comes to this topic. I'm hoping that these 3 issues that I've brought to you today, we are able to work together to curtail. And I want to make sure that everybody understands something. I get that me at the front, and I just had this conversation with the senior class who was visibly upset over a couple of things. They've been here for 4 years, and they're visibly upset over a couple of things. You have to understand. Though I'm standing at the front, and it seems as though, Mr. Eiler's telling us, do this, don't do that, do this, do that. Yes. To a large extent, that is what I'm doing. But the reason that I'm doing it is because we have a big school with 1,200 kids in it. It is important that every single person who goes to school here feels safe and feels comfortable going about their day. We need to do whatever it takes to move further and further in that direction. The questions that the senior class had for me after this presentation was done were phenomenal questions. But in the end, and I will take the time to answer all of their questions as they were coming up to me and we were just having a conversation. But in the end, one of the things that I kept saying to them, and I will say to everybody, is that The goal is to recalibrate, meaning to get back so that we are all moving in the same direction. To make sure that we all accept the fact that being on time is an important issue. To make sure that we all accept that vaping in the bathroom and congregating in the bathroom is not acceptable at Matawan Regional High School. And more than anything else, to make sure that we all accept and understand and recognize that harassment, intimidation, and bullying has no place within these walls. All right? I'm sorry that this is kind of a doom and gloom, melancholy conversation, but we thought it was important to get the classes back together, to give you a forewarning about this is what we are looking at, and to explain to you what the next steps will be. At 2:10 p.m. this afternoon, there is a letter that is going to go home to parent, guardian, and student that will encapsulate the conversation that we just had. With a group of students the size of Matawan Regional High School, where there are 1,300 students, everybody is going to have an opinion about it. Everybody is going to feel a certain way about these things. My hope is that we can all accept that it is important that we are on the same page with regards to these three issues so that we can continue to move forward. Because there are way too many amazing things that are taking place in this building for us to be distracted by these three issues. Right? And I'm asking for your help so that we can continue to move forward.